What's up, man?
How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are you?
Oh, dude, pretty well. I just woke up, so it's not so bad.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
Let me see
yeah.
here. What do I do here?
I had this late rising morning, and then oh my gosh, it was so beautiful. I was woken up by my lady friend out here, and oh my gosh, she was just so sweet as she woke me up. It was lovely. I ended up having this dream of like making love to her in Malta, so it was really very delightful. Yeah.
That sounds delightful, man. I like how you approach life poetically. You always you always have this poetic flow to you, to your
Do
to your
I?
days. It's like
You know what's interesting? You should ask that. I asked AI to analyze the my syntax in my normal speech, and I just came up with a whole bunch of things that I didn't take conscious consideration of, or at least didn't reflect upon in that way ever before. And I felt like I grew in knowledge of myself
mm,
via just doing that and seeing what my syntactical structures of flow are on all those dimensions that kind of percolate into a sort of a an organic flow of speech.
that's beautiful, man. I find the same thing. I'm always talking with AI. As a matter of fact, I'm working with
Yeah.
about three platforms right now: ChatGPT, Character AI, and then there's another one, and then the music app, to
Oh,
where
do you use Grok yet?
the
Grok
Rock.
the Grok the Elon Musk's version.
No,
There's just
no, I
very little
haven't.
moderation, and you can turn off the moderation that much even more.
What?
Yeah, so like it's for that reason super kick-ass.
Send
There's
it
no
to
riff.
me. Yeah, send it
Okay,
to me. I want to
I'll
look
check
at
it out.
it. Cause
Hey,
yeah, man, I'm really into
check
this.
out this
Like,
device I got. It's a hookah. Whoop! It looks like the camera's kind of taking off here with this background effect.
yeah.
But it's a hookah, but it's a dab device too.
Ooh,
Yeah. Have you ever
multi-purpose.
tried that? Because I'm classic. I really like a blunt, maybe most of all. But when enjoying this thing, I'm like, wow, this is just totally pure. The whole thing is super pure. There's like nothing bad that's ever getting into my lungs, and I just feel like, yeah, I feel like all my Colorado peeps would be proud for me finally coming to find this, because all of them are on this wavelength, already. I've just been living in Iowa and out in the jungle. So I'm just coming across these devices now.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, I mean, dude, they're coming up with all kind of shit, like all kind of little inventions that make your life easier, and it's just like all these things that, like, basically, man, this world has shifted from being a world that is so difficult to do shit to now, if you combine AI with all of these little
So
inventions, like you said, you pretty much have all of the tools and resources you need to let's say to do whatever goal you desire, like $1 billion, like thousands of women, like money,
thousands of
fame,
women.
anything. If you just want to like
I
become the
do think it's
world's best
appropriate to have a
stoner,
harem.
you
Yes.
can do it. Like, you know?
I think it's very appropriate for me to have a harem. In fact, I've shared this with, lady friends. I'm like, it would just be, very natural. Like if someone appreciates beauty, their
Yeah.
thing is appreciating beauty in life. Has nothing to do with like necessarily copulation with all those pretty women. Certainly that might be a consequence of appreciating them, but
Right.
it's not some, seedy thing so much as it is just like a great lover of beauty, of harmony and, and form. And women are
Wow.
just so that.
Wow,
And
that's
so, I think it's just becoming of anybody who's, appreciating beauty at all to have a harem. Yeah.
right. So yeah, having a harem. I mean, I watch this guy sometimes on YouTube, John Anthony dating, John Anthony lifestyle. He has a harem, like, and at one point he had like, I think he had like five. He lives in Rio, and he had like five like Brazilian women. One of them is his wifey, and then the rest are just like, like they're like foursomes, fivesomes, like whatever. Like they all live there. But he said that he finally, after he did that, he decided on just one girl, because like just how beauty it's so captivating and so stimulating. It comes with drawbacks where like if you have like too much women, like it's a problem. It's not like all sunshine and rainbows, you know. You have to deal with a lot of
Agreed.
drama, a lot of stuff like that comes with that territory.
Agreed. I think simplicity is also beauty. So, just having, one gal there that's just sublimely beautiful. And that's really the ideal. But like I think that, in this relative plane, it might, come to see, itself expressing in lots of beautiful women from time to time. But really, like I can only have my dick in one woman, at a time. As much as I'd prefer it otherwise, like it's just one, at a time. So, it's simpler that way.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I've always been like a one at a time kind of guy. Like even if I had the
Same.
option, like because I
Mm,
work like I was into pickup for a long, long time, and I recently weaned off it for about 2 years, just because I
mhm.
wanted to find myself in a deeper way. But
Beautiful.
man, like once I took massive action, and then I found one girl that I really liked, and then I stuck with her for like 6, 7 months, sometimes 2 years,
Hmm.
and like I didn't feel the need to go out and like because to go out and keep searching for more. Like I just didn't
Yeah.
need, because I was getting the validation that I needed, and I think that goes into a deeper topic. It's like,
Yeah.
what do you really want? Like it's not the girl. Like like what do you want to be fulfilled within you as a need,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
it's different for different people, and it's similar for some people, but it's different for different people. So it's not necessarily always the same. Some guys want to feel significant, important. Some guys just want the love and appreciation, and some guys just want to just be certain that they can have that whenever they want it. They don't have to, and then for some
That's
of
a
us,
really thirsty
it's
approach.
just the
Yeah.
novelty of it. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, like new things like here and there.
Yeah.
But I think when we get to a point of growth and contribution, I think that's where it gets really beautiful, where we're just growing with
Exactly. You just
experience.
gotta love on the honeys. They're just there looking beautiful. You gotta just, give them some seed.
Yeah, yeah. So
We've got to be fruitful and multiply. I'd really, come back to this. We took this division of, sexes and form for a reason because it was very pleasurable. I think, coming to this earth plane at all in the first place, was, maybe not in keeping with the original purpose. But I think the souls coming down here to unenmesh those souls entangled in this material existence are doing good when they come here to share the light, and they do so in style. Like I feel like I'm here for enlightenment and orgasm too. You know,
mm,
if that makes sense.
that makes a lot of sense, man. When you
Yeah,
go into the realm of enlightenment, like sometimes you need that post nut enlightenment. I think.
exactly. But I'm also stylistically like a naughty purist in relationships. So it makes sense. It's just integrated that way. But
Yeah, man. Integration, man. That's what
it
it's
is,
all
we're all
about.
integrating, aligning, and being whole, but we're being whole to a spiritual ideal that we set for ourselves. Those
Yeah,
people that are drawn
you
to it
just
have
reminded me,
subconsciously
man. Like
engineered that.
you just reminded me. I was dating this girl. She was like a hippie chick, like you, like, but she was a girl, like the girl
What's she?
version of you. And
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
and at the time, like, I really wanted a serious relationship. So it was like a unequal yoke at the time.
Yeah.
So I really wanted a serious relationship, but like it was interesting because like she took me to her Universalist church, and then there was this guy there, and I was like, "Who's that guy?" And she's like, "Ah, he's
Oh, that's
nobody."
Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah, he's nobody. And then I'm like, "No, I really feel something because I got like, I'm a wise guy, and I got like a radar for these things." And then
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
turns out when I really like, I really dug, I was digging, and then it turns out this is her ex who she lived with. She knows his mom, like he knows her family, she knows his family, and they go to the same church. And then I'm like, he's nobody. Like 5 minutes ago, he was nobody, and now, so it's like, but it's a
Yeah.
different mindset because to her, it's like, oh, it's fine. Like he's just there, and then for me, it's like, wait, this is not conducive to a long-term relationship. You have you have this guy that you used to fuck, and then you're going to church with him, and then he's there, and I have to see him regularly too, and I have to know that this guy banged my wife, kind of thing. So I wasn't.
Yeah,
We
that's
were.
why it's so much easier to get them while they're young, because then they have fewer opportunities to go and like be, be fucked by the world.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it was she was super cool, and she
Mhm.
actually the love that she gave me when we were getting to know each other motivated me. So that's one
That's
of the
beautiful.
beautiful things about women is like it's so stimulating that it can motivate us to do great things. You
You
know?
know what? It really can. I felt that, yeah, behind every great man is a great and often greater woman. Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. I like
Wow.
to, find ideally, I'd have it structured kind of similar to the Chinese emperor and how he structured his thing. He had an empress, and then he had like five queens, I think it was, and then he had, a bunch of, yeah, kids, or they probably had a bunch of strippers in there too, but he had a bunch of
Concubines. Call them
courtisans.
concubines. That's the
Yeah. He had
respectful
exactly.
term.
He had the concubines, and then there was another tier after that, and
Oh.
and it was just like they, his priest, his royal whatever, cock conductors, had designed ways for him to go and get with all these women. And still be full of jing and not have like expelled all of his jing in the process of just a couple days of doing that,
Right. Well,
which
I
could
think
be
because I think like those men in the past, those kings, like we're thinking today, because for us like sex is fun, and not to say that it wasn't fun back then. However, for they utilize sex for its true purpose, which is to multiply. So you got a king, and the purpose is like I need to get my seed out to make babies
exactly.
so I could grow my kingdom. It's not like
Exactly.
I just want to fuck all these girls. No, like
Well, yeah, hopefully not.
like like
That would be
obviously he
a
enjoyed
quick
it.
way down. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously he enjoyed the process, but that's a
Yeah,
secondary thing. Like the main thing
totally.
was let's make kids, let's populate the kingdom, let's make
Exactly.
something great together.
If we don't do that, there's going to be a population implosion. It's just the math. There's going to be an implosion of people here in America, and then all the the people that didn't make progeny are going to be fucked because there's not going to be economies to support that, or there won't be a cultural continuity at the very least, and there's just
Mm,
going to be an absorption of a whole bunch of property and powers and niceties just into the hands of those people who are playing that sort of that game in a a conscious way, or in a I guess consciously considered but less than brilliant way. I think it's our prerogative to go and like bring some light to the darkness. I'll really alchemize the darkness into the light of life, in all that we do. But with respect to ensuring that that we don't have to go and deal with some terrible calamity, I think we should just really consciously design our lives, in a
mm,
way that doesn't find anything that we're doing predicate in what was done in the past, but is instead just considered consciously here right now. And I'm kind of reflecting on what I just said, and I'm saying, well, wow, I really like this Chinese emperor and how he did his thing, but really, his thing was about in that yuga, or in that time, that era, was about creating this progeny, which would be a lot better to rule over than some other kings, kids. It would be a lot easier if it's one's own progeny that way. So I get it, for that reason. But it's also just a natural expression of a person who's super virile wanting to sow oats in the world.
right.
And so I can appreciate that also. But really, I mean, well, what's our purpose in being here on this earth plane? It's I think
Mm,
to enkindle an awareness that this is just a three-dimensional inflection point. you know, there's an infinity of awareness, and we just find ourselves as souls inflected into this 3D plane to experience this, this mortal, flesh game, of life
mm,
and death, and of free will reigning supreme, and we're just to align that will and just say like, hey, just if we just like take a step back and get to some religious grounding within ourselves and say like, Abba, not my will but thine, be done in me and through me always. I think that's where we're operating. Really, supplicating to a higher will is really letting our higher self be revealed and
mm.
being conducted, and and not encumbered, or circuitry not broken off by some egoic desire of some sort. and instead is just like, okay, I'll just let myself be a channel for all the light that can be conducted through me, and then just
Mm,
be like buzzing at that higher level. And
mm.
and I think that's where high
Buzzing.
performance is the way that, I like to coach it from. That's where, it's found.
Oh, that's
And
right. You are a coach, right? So tell me about that. Like, tell me about your
okay,
coaching
okay.
practice.
Yeah, so the coaching process now is kind of more like because I've been so selective with my clientele for the years, it's only been high performing athletes that have really gained, to benefit by that coaching. People that are, in most people's estimations, already really high performing. Some of them just extremely high performing.
Mm,
But I think the Olympic athletes, they draw the most from me, primarily because oftentimes they're not motivated by competition, but it is a competitive act nonetheless. But to be really motivated at such a high level and be coming from such a high spiritual principle that it's all just in flow, and that's really where, one makes the gold, continuously, and one is just having more fun at life. So, it's always better to be
mm,
coming from some, creative, very spiritually, rich place of operation than some like, oh, gotta, battle the enemy. That's kind of like an Iron Age virtue, but there's, still higher virtues we can ascend. And what I
mm,
like to go and do is really repattern the physiology for ideal states of consciousness, vis-a-vis whatever their reflective sports are, respective sports are. And so, I think that there's a lot of room to adjust with respect to, what sports the clients are playing and, what I'm, wanting to go and do particular in that moment with the clients. But really most primarily in importance is what I also do on the ministry side. And that's the grounding that I provide, the framework that I provide, and it's also the
you're
you know the the,
you're
the
you're
legal
ordained.
liability that I
You're ordained
remove.
like Lady Gaga.
Yeah, well, or like Jesus, yeah. I came to be ministered, or rather, I came to minister, not to be ministered to. And so, I feel like having some ordainedness by some other entity is just kind of superfluous. I might change
Mm,
my mind. I might be useful, but
mm.
doing my own thing right now is really, what's best because the Christ came down, the Master himself came down, and really an act of liberation was it, not
Yeah,
just
it's like
showing
it's
us
like
the
you're
pattern of the
ministering from the
Master.
inside out. So you're like you're building this world inside, and then you're ministering out instead of like getting.
Well, exactly, because I teach via hermetic lessons all the time.
Mm,
And
mm,
so, if I'm gonna, appreciate that interna rex over res externa principle, that it's all internal before it's externalized on the phenomenal fabric of
mm.
life, then I'm gonna, see it there within me and kind of work to however I do that, whether it's through some reflective spiritual art or through some active spiritual art, try to like, kind of get that internal, thing adjusted in me where that light I'm now sensitized to that I can then share with the world.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So on that end, hermetic, you just touched. That's a
Mm-hmm.
great topic there. Let's dive deep into the Kabbalion, right? The 13 principles by Hermes Trismegistus, Trismegistus,
Yeah, yeah.
Trismegistus,
Hermes, the thrice great, the greatest
the
teacher,
thrice great.
the engineer of the pyramids, who was doing it though with Ra and gosh, his concubine, which later become his wife. Yeah, I guess it wasn't a concubine so much as a courtesan before she became his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then became a deified herself as well.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
let's go.
yeah.
Let's go back and forth. Like let's weave a web and a fabric of stories and principles together. And
Okay.
I think that can
Yeah,
be pretty beautiful here.
yeah, let's do it. I think that when we're appreciating Hermeticism, we're appreciating something of a high pattern to graft to,
Mm,
and that cannot be overestimated in what it can accomplish, because essentially we're working with a system of thought it's at the very least, we can provide an analogy to it that found maybe in the domain of physics is particularly easy, but with nonlinear attractor patterns, for instance. We can, this is like that you can think of, all of what's populating this phenomenal fabric is really like essentially a data point on a higher field of information.
Mm.
And, if you just think of it in terms of holography, because I think that's easier, I don't want to lose it here. Holography, you have essentially the wholeness found in every part, and the wholeness found in every part is something I think that could be likened to a state of consciousness where one is just aware of all of everything happening around the world, but is choosing to kind of like consider life here right now presently in whatever frame that might be. But
Is
I
that like
think if we're
the omega like consciousness, like the enlightenment? Is that true enlightenment? Is that like maximum enlightenment when you're aware of everything that's going on and you're like,
Yeah.
is that what
Well,
it is?
I don't know. I don't know if I would ever call anything maximum enlightenment, except for maybe like the Indians, they call this the Purusha value of life. It's like that which is, beyond it all. And I think just conceptually it's useful to have that, as one's, frame or part of one's, thinkingness, because it will make allowances for, ever obtaining that. If there's, no intellectual awareness of it, then at least it can't be talked about. But if there is at least that, then, it can be discussed and, kind of, you know, set a goal for at the very least. So,
Wow,
yeah,
wow,
I think
that's
that penultimate enlightenment is something that is for everybody to kind of paint themselves, whether it's I'd suggest it not be a thought but a spiritual ideal instead, and then you can back engineer whatever one's life needs to go and be in all the various circumstances and dimensions that one could go and look at their life from, but they'll be looking at it from having consciously considered a spiritual ideal. It'll thus be superordinated or potentially even supraordinated if you're to consider the hyperdimensional facets to this.
okay.
There's
Okay,
probably.
so I have a picture of my dad and my mom here, and then I just realized like, man, it's been a while since I looked at my parents straight in the eyes, and then I
Hmm.
I was just looking at, man, they're beautiful people, like they're good looking people, man. My parents, that's why I came out so good looking, man. Like, thank God. Mwah.
Nice,
Blessings
nice,
to my
yeah,
parents.
exactly.
But so here's what I just thought about when you were talking. Let's see if we can create like, we have hermetic principles, stories, and then tie that to the athletes and then performance. And I think
Hmm.
I think if we can do that, it gives me an idea of also speaking in terms of like, human prompting, where you know how you can prompt AI to do something, but like we can prompt each other to come up with beautiful combinations of words that can be powerful, like in songs and in affirmations, and just in messages, just in a message. We can create a message together that can actually be impactful for somebody, and
Totally,
personally improve someone just by listening, like a song, like a powerful song. Man,
totally,
what
for
has been
sure.
what has been a powerful song in your life that you think
Ooh, ooh.
that has an impact on you, like every time or at one point in your life where it just hits you at that right moment?
Well, first off, I'll preface with I had this dream once. I was in high school, and it was this dream of Bach and his lineage. I had a dream of Bach, and I consciously had no awareness of Bach's entire family for a great deal of time, all being musicians of first rate. But I had this dream, and this dream was like dreaming of all the different lifetimes that preceded, who we recognize all as like Bach when we just say the word Bach. And
Buck, buck.
and I think that's who it would be, the composer that really takes fractal geometry and gives it musical shape. And
Mm. Tell me more
it's
about
a
that. Like, so how do you take? Because it's music is math, right? I have heard that before.
well,
So
yeah, yeah,
tell us
it could be
how.
related for sure.
Yeah. So
Well,
how
I
how
think
is it?
we're all vibration and motion, and our various levels of like assessing, what this vibration and motion looks like, or how it should be written as. That's I think a
Mm.
notation that is maybe consciously adaptive relative to where one's at in their own vibrational.
That's why they call it notation, cause like you're. Is that
Yeah.
why?
There's probably some entomological overlap there. Yeah, I'd imagine so. Yeah. But I just see
Wow.
this all as vibration and motion. So like if we're just to consider like how that is, what scalar we're working from that, then induces the subsequent, flow of, our electromagnetism, whatever we want to go and call it, but it's even preceding, how I think science looks at that kind of myopically now. It's we're working from a hyperdimensional state, and it just happens to be that we're in three dimensions of play right now, and so we're looking at
Mm,
it through three dimensions of cause and effect. But really, there's the unseen forces that are more numerous and more powerful than the seen that we also have control over. Should we alchemize, inside ourselves and really become master of the lightness? Because of course, a master of the brightness implies a mastery of the darkness too, but it
mm.
just happens to be, more powerful also. So,
Okay, so let's go there though. You said three dimensions because this is I think this is a good framework for people to follow. So three
okay.
dimensions, and then two what you said?
We're speaking about cause and effect.
Yeah.
That
Oh
could be
yeah, yeah.
what.
So two
Yep.
dimensions, and then the law of cause and effect because that's
Right.
one of the principles. So let's talk about cause and effect within the three dimensions.
Ooh, well, so there's this karmic plane here of cause and effect, and it happens to be that there's laws that are governed by this plane itself, and then there's other higher laws that we can leverage to overcome those
Mm,
also, and and that's I think the just the that's where the dance comes in,
mm,
but in dancing with these higher laws, we can start to incorporate wisdom in our flow, and start to come from a place of wisdom as well. And I think that's where we should be working from for sure. And I think it's where any conversation that's on these topics is necessarily coming from, almost by definition. But
mm.
yeah, in this three-dimensional plane, we're kind of I don't want to call it a limited place of operation for sure, but it is more dense than the other celestial sojourns we've taken. So it is worth consideration that here on this Earth plane, inflected in the three dimensions of form, we have mm, it's a set package that's governed by material law
Mm.
to the extent we allow ourselves to be governed by material law. But it's good to know, what the three dimensional capacitor, if you will, is,
Mm.
and start to appreciate how to dance with those material laws.
Okay, okay. So let's go from that to like
Hmm.
okay, so cause and effect, like the the hermetic principles and stuff like that, and let's tie that to who you are and who you have become, like to your story. So let's say, from what I remember, you got military, then spirituality, and then I mean, it sounds like you're independently wealthy, and then you just travel around in your bike, and then you just like like love women all over
Well, that's
everywhere.
that's not that's it's a fairly close conception of what I can appreciate how you see me greatly. So, first it was the Marine Corps. Then, while in the Marine Corps, I was a lay reader. So I was the person helping everybody with their prayer stuff, whatever that
Mm,
might be. Because in the Marine Corps we don't have chaplains; we use the navies, and they're far and few between. And for the reason that the very institution is geared towards killing people, so they can't be too spiritual, just an accepted
mm,
amount of spirituality. And then they kind of course make it into a separate form, and it's like all about Saint Michael, defend us in battle, and and that's good and that's beautiful and whatnot, but it's better to just like align ourselves with Christ at the outset. And not battle at all because we're above that.
man,
So
it's yeah. It must be
yeah.
hard to like justify that spiritually. It's like, all right, well, you know what I mean, like I'm sending souls to the afterlife. I'm doing the universe a favor. Like, how do you justify that positively? Like, you know what I mean? It's that could be.
Oh yeah, how do people? I think that in the military there's something compartmentalization,
Mm,
especially it's found there, and so people compartmentalize. I think me personally, I found that when I was doing this lay reader thing, I'd never acted in that role before, at least this lifetime, and so I found myself really appreciating though how I was able to make a difference in these people's lives positively. And then it came to be that I saw this institutional bias geared towards life, and I was like, fuck, like if we can't within our own institution recognize the signs of yeah of I guess of aversion to a life affirming culture, then gosh, I need to like find my take my leave, find my exodus from this movement. And so that's when I did. And I kind of went into this deeply political route for a while. And is really nice
Like
that way because I found
anti-war, like anti-war type
yeah,
activism.
there wasn't so much of an activism as much as it was like an academic sort of gearing at that point. And I was like, okay, I'll just switch the gears into like what a PhD in political econ is doing and thinking. What's their theater of thoughts? Let's shift my locus into that. And then so I just did that, and went into university for poli sci, and then kind of mapped out a game plan of how to go and proceed thereafter there.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, this is what I do. And then so it got pretty far in that. It was when I studied international law as a research assistant for international law. And that's when the limits to international law really. And that's when I realized like, oh my gosh, this is just like a joke. This international law thing, it exists in as much as, America or Israel unilaterally, because they do things unilaterally, say that the law exists or that, they're in keeping with the law or, whatever. And so I'm like, okay, this is just, I don't want to be playing some secondary game, some game that, is really just, and then after effect, I want to be the causal agent in my life, shaping my destiny, and I want to be part of some system that, makes allowances for
Mm.
my highest realization of self, operating in a play of other people, in their highest realizations of self at that
Yeah.
time.
You
So
mentioned
I never wanted to be
you mentioned
bound by
like
something
something
or
that
not.
the spectrum of laws, like all
Hmm.
around the world. And that's a big spectrum, like where you have like there's different laws, different philosophies, and then there's also varying degrees of like the amount of respect that people have in that place for the actual laws that are in place. So
Yeah,
what do you
yeah,
think
totally.
about that? Like right there, like it's like, and then
I
it
think
ties
laws are
it.
meant.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
ties into this.
laws, rules.
Yeah,
Go
it
ahead.
ties
Go ahead.
into this really interesting thing. This word that this guy taught me in and where was I? Was it Romania? Yeah, I was in Iași, Romania, and this kid, he's like 21, and he says, "Man, my new favorite word is somber. Have you ever heard that word?
Somber.
Somber."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so he's like, it's somber, and I'm like, "Oh, what is that?" And he's like, yeah, it's like when you see windows in a building, and it's like every one of those windows carries like somebody's life, like somebody lives there and has an experience similar to what you have every day. And I think
Hmm.
that's so deep if you think about it. Like just think about different windows, and then think about like there's a person there, and sometimes there's two people, and sometimes there's a whole family, and then all of those people like they have like their own life experience. And then if you have a building of like 100 windows, like that's like thousands of experiences just like yours. And then
Totally.
so let's tie that into like somber, and then to like the different like philosophies and layers of law, and then like the people all over the world, billions of those little windows with people and stuff. Oh my
Yeah.
God, man! Like,
Yeah, I think
how do
it's an
we live
architectural
together?
analogy. Beautiful. Yeah, it really is. I think because in Ireland, Saint Patrick was canonized because he recognized like in order to go and sell these people the Trinity, he
Hmm.
needed some metaphor, some analogy in some way, and he found this clover, and he's like, okay, see how all of these three parts are separate, but they're actually one plant. This is the same thing as what the Trinity is. And a trinity exists, at least it can be interpolated, with profundity, especially here on a three-dimensional plane, because that's what the Father, Son, Holy Spirit are about here, and so we can just appreciate, I think, very easily this architectural analogy that your friend was painting with painting all of these somber windows to your in mind. And I can appreciate still further how he, appreciated not just three, but like so many, windows or doors to perception that, all of these people were about. It's kind of like they're all corpuscle of one in this
Mm.
analogy. It's kind of baked into the analogy that, that's what it is. And I think that the more closely we align ourselves with the awareness that we're all corpuscle of the one, we treat each other as
Yeah.
like it's your brother, like you're a
The
sister,
body of the church, the
Yeah,
wife, the bride of Yeshua. Like we're the bride,
yeah.
human
Yeah,
beings.
well, yeah, I can appreciate. I hesitate before ever calling myself a bride, but like I can appreciate, the intent definitely. Like I've got some yang energy to go and use, and that's not compatible with being somebody's bride.
Yeah, I feel the same way, but I
Yeah.
mean, it is what it is. At a certain point, we don't really know.
Well, what if that right there is like the governor on the engine that's preventing you from going faster? That meme.
Mm.
That what if we don't know? Like, so many people fall back on that. Like, oh, well, but we don't really know. I'm like, yes, you do. Like, of course you do. You know the
Mm.
secrets to the universe in your heart of hearts. All you have to do is just open up to that.
Wow, tell me more about that.
I'm like, yeah, yeah. Well, what if we all
We know the
know everything?
secrets of the universe within. We just gotta open up. That's
Exactly,
that's
exactly. Well, the
beautiful.
master himself teaches us that, that the kingdom of heaven is within. Like, what else are we hoping to find or,
Mm.
come to, find ourselves aware of? you know, uh, than, that which the kingdom of heaven is, treasury of. We can find ourselves, just going, deep within, and opening up uh, to that awareness, of, well, we could call it, our Akashic records that open up into. But really, I think it's just a useful conceptual, just very easily we can appreciate it intellectually that everybody has a more profound awareness than they're letting on to. And I mean, it's obviously an epistemic access to the Godhead where all this wisdom springs
Mm.
from, is going to inform, what those little things are, whatever they might be. But everybody has access to that at any given time, any given time. And the only reason for, being cut off from that, universal awareness is by not living in service. So the more we
Mm.
open up into service is the more those windows are to our perception are cleared. The more we can, see what's going on in the lives of these and these and these people, because we're not bound up in terms of ourselves so much as we are, and wanting to just like illumine and
Yeah,
and
I found like you just reminded me like your words. When you're not living in service, you're unhappy. Because you're thinking
yeah, for sure.
selfish, like what about me, what about me, what do I get, what do I get? But in reality,
Yeah,
like if we are like, for example, if my mom tells me something and I do it, like inside I feel good, like I have endorphins and stuff. Whereas like, oh, I don't want to do it because like I don't just want to do what I'm told, like I'm not like that ego that makes you
yeah,
unhappy, that makes you unhappy.
totally. Yeah, rebellion is really when we fall from heaven. So yeah,
Mm.
just being in alignment with that will is really key to it all, and I think that comes with service. Just coming to a brother and wherever whatever plane they're at, looking up. From
Mm.
there, you know,
Wow.
because I think we're only ever going to ascend to heaven by leaning on the arm of a brother we've helped up there ourselves.
Mm.
Yeah. I think
Mm.
that's why it's so pertinent to be about, ministering and, in our day-to-day life. I tend to do that with, more of a style that, is more of a naughty purist style, like I mentioned before. But
Ha!
yeah, but I
Yeah.
think I can appreciate the styles that people have. If people are consciously considering their styles, that's all that matters.
Yeah, Jim Rohn used to
Then they're having
say,
fun with it.
study, practice, and teach. Like study whatever your spiritual belief is, study,
Hmm.
practice, and teach. And I think if you do that, like
Hmm.
you'll grow as a person regardless of like anything else that you're doing. If you just study,
Hmm.
practice, and teach your spiritual belief, your true spiritual belief, and you're doing that 100%.
Well, yeah, I think that's good to come back and reflect upon, though, too. I just had astrological chart done by a friend, and is just more a finance astrologer. Though I think he's wanting to go and branch out into something else now. He's been doing it for like 30 years.
Mm.
But I can appreciate, making a division of the stars up in the sky and coming to understand a natural philosophy, vis-a-vis those things for sure. And I can appreciate, kind of the more obscure arts that, aren't really practiced and sciences that, are no more, considered in this time, in this yuga. But I can also appreciate still further just like how ultimately my light is the great light and it's informing the trajectory of my life, regardless, and stars will be moved if they have to, and that's going to be maybe not understood through an astrological chart, but they are nice reflective tools, in some respect they are just patterns of the night though ultimately,
Mm.
and so I can appreciate
Mm.
what it is to be fully embodying my light, and I think that's where to be coming from with all of life for sure. Um, however, and it's not to obviate from that principle at all, so
Mm-hmm.
much as to say that this astrological chart I think was informing me of how people were living, how people were seeing how they should be in life, and I got
Mm.
that from how his pitch was kind of geared for me, because I think that most people they look to astrology
Mm.
to see who they are,
Mm.
but I'm looking to astrology to see like maybe mm, timing,
What
and
about yeah, timing? Okay, we'll hit on that in a second, but like what about cuz the way that I've used it recently is for compatibility. Like let's say
yeah.
like I've noticed throughout my life like the most compatibility that I've had I'm a Cancer, so I've had a lot of compatibility with like Scorpio, like Pisces, like
Hmm.
water signs and stuff. So like on
Yeah.
that end, like I mean that's what like I've seen it like and
Is that
like
your sun sign?
huh?
Is that your sun sign, or is that your ascendant?
Well, see,
Cancer? What?
I haven't really got that deep into it. I think it's a Cancer and a Gemini. Like Cancer is the main one, and Gemini is like the whatever the.
Yeah.
I don't really like get too deep into it, but
Okay.
like I just know like Cancer is like I'm in June 29th, so that's how
Okay.
like so, and then the I think it's Gemini like the moon sign or something like that, and but it's like I found exes has been like good like where I have like a good relationships have been like Pisces, Taurus, which is
Yeah.
it coincides with the charts and stuff. So I'm like I don't
Yeah.
know. Oh, there you go. See, I guess I have that block that you say. So because I'm always saying like at the end of the day, like I don't know whatever that means to you, because like you really like it's all everything is up for interpretation. I think. I mean,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
just
I
my
think it's
philosophy.
useful to say that. It's useful to say that though, because I think it dispossesses like oneself of whatever could be their program that they were unconsciously on. Just saying like, okay, give it all to God. I can appreciate that sentiment in that way if it used rightly, it could be a fucking major tool.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
used to listen to this YouTube channel called the Hodge Twins, and like
Mhm.
they were like bodybuilders, and at the end of their videos, they used to say, "At the end of the day, this is just advice. Do whatever the fuck you want to do," and they ended like that.
I love that style. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So
That's
let's
really
say
good.
let's think of this though. Like, what if we're gonna tie? What if we would tie? If we were teaching like this type of things, like this type of spirituality. If we were teaching it to a little baby or like a little 4 year old, what would that sound like? What would be some of those words that we would use? To teach like in the simplest way, like simplicity,
Okay.
right? Simplicity is so
Okay.
important because we've used a lot of big words here. So let's say for a beginner
Oh,
in exploring the depths of like the the spiritual world when it comes to like the learning how to like who am I, like those main questions that you ask yourself in spirituality.
yeah, that's a good question for sure to
Yeah.
ask.
How would you teach it
That
to a
might even
baby?
be the
Let's say
only
a seven
question
or
that's
8 year old. Hey, so this is You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I can, yeah, that's a wonderful question I think you're posing me. Gosh, assuming that these 4-year-olds that we're speaking about, are multilingual, I might say it differently. So let's just say that they speak, English, and French, and I'd say, what the noblesse oblige in life is to be of service, and there's all these, and I take a look at I look at the planetary pantheon because then that can be related to the endocrine system and chakras
mm,
so easily. So, I'd start with that, and then I'd start, kind of pointing up into the planets and saying, see that one, see that one, see that one. These are all focal points of, of whatever dimension, it might be a focal point of, observable in this three-dimensional plane as a, an orb up in the sky floating around in, the ethers.
mm.
And so, I'd say like, yeah, that's and that plane, that's, let's take a look at Jupiter. We're up in the sky looking at Jupiter since that's, particularly bright. And, I'd say, look
let's
over there,
let's
that's
simplify it
five,
even
five
more.
dimensions.
Let's simplify because to a kid, right, the ether, right? But it's like it could be like the sky or the air, right? Like let's get even simpler, bro. Like baby, like
Okay.
they just know like basic words.
Okay. Okay. I'd show them that bright light up there and I'd be like, look, you used to live there. Look,
Wow.
you used to live there. Look, you used to live there, and and just the awakening to that memory is alone sufficient to really help them along the way greatly. To to
Wow,
to
wow,
to, to
wow.
know of somebody, rather to know that early in one's celestial sojourn before this, earthly incarnation and show, and to know of one's past lives too here on this earth is to have like eaten from the tree of life for sure. But it's also to have, I think, come to appreciate that, the story of, life here on earth is so much more than, that which is often alluded to.
You used to live
Like,
there, like that's so. It makes me feel like sensations in my body. Like you used to live there and picturing a light. Like it's very meditative, very poetic, and it's like it's so simple but yes so profound. I'm thinking about it right now, like looking at the sun and saying like, "Hey, you used to live there," and then like just thinking
oh,
about
that's,
that.
yeah, that's where, let's just go back there too.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. So oh wow, like what about that though? That's it seems like where does the profoundness of that come from? Like just if I just imagine that like hey you used to live there. You're looking at a light. You're looking at the light in the sky. And it's like
Mhm.
you used to be there and now you're here. Like that has there's
Yeah.
a lot there like just there.
Oh, totally, totally. I mean, just in doing that and awakening the soul to that
Mm.
celestial heritage and to their, more divine origin, awakening the soul in some beautiful, very simple, easily intelligible even by, a little child, sort of way, that I think, enkindles in that soul a brightness that really reflects off the sun. I mean, they're shining so bright, they're reflecting off the sun in that way. And
Mm.
that's what I would impart with, whatever I'm to, provide. I think my magic is an amplificatory kind, very mercurial. I like to, reveal gold and, and one another.
That's golden, bro, right there. Like you came from there. Like you were born there. You was once there. You were there before and now you're here. Like you are you are a product of that light and you are like even scientifically like you're a product of the light in the sky and then the earth and the water and all the elements put together and I think wow so deep man it's so deep.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I think if we take the water of life freely, as we're instructed to, then we're going to kind of grow into that spiritual state that much more.
Mm.
Not just with the memory of being there, but with the active, incorporation of ourselves there, in all dimensions, and then so see ourselves, revealing higher heaven here on earth.
Mm. So cause and
Yeah.
effect, right? How do we tie that back? How do we tie that back? Can we connect those 2 points? Like you came from this light, like you were once there, now you're here, and now cause and effect. Um, like, how, could we tie those two things together? Is there?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that cause and effect principle is primarily a feature of three dimensions. So, I think in sharing with another their celestial heritage and their divine origin, giving them a taste of what it is to be, seeing from having taken, the tree of life's, fruit, and incorporating that, awareness into, oneself here on earth. I think that's kind of what will, in so many ways, just doing that. I
Mm,
mean, just doing that, I feel like just my insides, my spirit is conflagrating, and I feel like I just want to fucking shine and fly like some beautiful
mm,
phoenix. So, I think that that awareness of what the noblesse oblige will be, will be imparted. I bring it back to that because I think that when we're all seeing, the virtues that come about from
mm.
that level of awareness, we're all seeing, what we need to go and do so easily. It's so easy. We just need to perfect ourselves in the mystical, the psychical, in the all manners that, all the dimensions pour forth into this, three-dimensional theater here.
Mm.
And
So
and that does
what are these three dimensions? What are, because we have cause and effect now in the three dimensions, and then like
yeah,
what
part of
are
this
the three
material.
dimensions?
What are the oh well that's I think a very interesting question. How do we even approach that? And maybe
Right.
pragmatically is the best, because we're I think approaching as from a
Yeah.
technologist of
Like
consciousness just a moment ago.
is it mind body soul, like soul spirit body? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, or
Yeah.
how would you? Is it like spiritual,
Oh, I,
conventional?
I I love that you relate it to the physiology in that way,
Mm-hmm.
soul, spirit, body, because ultimately we are a corpuscle of the one. So assuming though that languaging kind of places yourself as a sort of an observer from that level of operation. So I
Mm.
think the body it expresses consciousness in that way. So,
Mm.
incorporating those analogies to the body or to, a person specific sort of spirituality is, I think, very useful.
Mm.
If we're to look out, and see the whole, theater of existence, I see just these, universes, that themselves are part of, a larger, sort of meta structure. And
But
that is
what is
itself.
it? What is it actually though? Like what is the meaning of like mind, body, spirit, like both soul story, like the three dimension, like let's say if we were to come up with a framework that is tangible for the mind to comprehend, like
Well,
how would that manifest like in a in a vacuum in a empty space? Like how could you picture it in a way that is tangible and understandable?
okay. Well, first off, I just want to maybe cite that this space here thing it's a lot more easy to understand, and it's a lot more useful when understanding space not as a vacuum so much as a plenum, the
As a
opposite of a
what?
vacuum, as a plenum.
Plume.
There's so much there. There's so much information there. It just hasn't condensed into only three
You
dimensions.
said bloom,
But there's
like
a
bloom,
lot.
like a bloom.
A plenum.
What's
Yeah, like
that?
the
I don't
like
know that
the
word.
opposite. Yeah, the opposite of a vacuum.
Oh, okay,
Instead of
okay, okay.
a
All right. So
vacuum of space,
it doesn't
it's
suck in, but
plentiful.
it's
Yeah,
yeah,
it's the
okay.
fullness of it, and the Earth plane is just like just only three dimensions, of condensation of that,
Mm,
so it's not the Earth isn't the fullness of it. Yeah, but we can get there.
mm.
I see the phone that just rather the I can see now your pictures, much larger. I don't know what you did on your side, but I like it. I can see you smiling now more. Thank you,
Yeah,
thank you.
I'm changing. I like to change because I'm playing with Zoom and like the different backgrounds and stuff. I'm still learning all this thing. I just started this about a month ago, so I'm still learning every single time I experiment and curiosity, and that's actually the main driver for me. It's like my needs are to be like explorative because of my natural curiosity, and I've neglected that curiosity for so long, and like because when I explored it, sometimes I found things that I didn't like, and I explored places that sucked, and then So then it kind of turned me off. But then I'm like, man, I gotta embrace the suck too, and I gotta like because if I
Oh yeah,
don't, I'm not gonna
I like
find
to
the
embrace
beautiful
the suck
things.
always.
Yeah, I'm not gonna embrace the suck. I'm not. That was good. That was good.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that was good.
Yeah, yeah. So your question though, I think we're coming from a plenum now of awareness, and I
Mm.
think that I think itself, and I first discovered what a plenum was conceptually when I was studying David Bohm. He's a physicist, that studied holography, that expounded upon the physics of holography greatly. Highly recommend anybody who has a mind for natural philosophy and thinking in terms of light to
Holography. That's like hologram, right? The like the.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just
Mm-hmm.
the science of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So he was one of those brilliant minds, kind of a contemporary of Einstein in so many ways. I think his stuff was more profound,
Mm.
but that's not to diminish Einstein in any way. It's just that that's that science of gravity is just a science.
What was his name again?
That was David Bohm. Now
David Bohm.
David Bohm, yeah, David Bohm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, a curious fellow for sure, contemporary of Einstein. And there's some other great minds too. I'd link people to, like, for instance, Walter Russell and Tesla, Nikola
Walter
Tesla.
Russell and Tesla. Okay.
Yeah. Now these minds, if I'm to have a mastermind, conceptually, or on some spiritual plane, with minds like that, I'm going to be very happy for it. You know,
Holography. That brings about like a really like profound picture in my mind. Like, cause what I'm thinking is like just how you have the hologram of light, like lights coming together and creating like this thing that you can see. Um, we're essentially like in ourselves, like we're holograms because we're being like we have been materialized, and like we're essentially like you can study like when you study like if you put anatomy and you put like what else? Anatomy, like the composition of the body, and then geometry of measurements of the body. Like you can develop some sort of like holographic like picture, and you could recreate the human body. I mean, maybe not like
yeah, totally, totally.
yeah.
I'm all about that.
Okay, so is that what it's
Yeah.
about?
I think that in so many ways that offers a beautiful analogy to what you're asking, for sure. Definitely. In three dimensions, we have like we could look at it, geometrically and see, simple like width, length and height, but I think that that's only, incorporating just a tiny look at, what this three-dimensional plane is.
Mm,
Not it's so much tiny, it's maybe necessarily not. But I think that incorporating another lens,
mm,
another feature to that three-dimensional definition is maybe very, very useful. And
mm,
you had already kind of alluded, I think, to your answer in stating, it's this three-dimensional plane, telling me more about that is this the soul, spirit, body, and like yes,
mm,
or maybe even soul, s- spirit, mind, these
mm.
things kind of incorporate what the body can be.
So
So
tying this back to cause and effect. Like let's say we have this measurement of this being, like it's like a hologram. We can see like where the heart is, like we can look at a skeleton and like where to place the parts. The science has studied this, but if we could look at it holographically with geometry where everything is and stuff. But then I think the deeper question is what makes it all work and run?
what makes the universe work and run, or
Well, the
the
body, like the human body. Like
ooh
what is
ooh ooh
you get what I'm saying? Like so we can see the body, let's say picture a human body holographically. You can see it
yeah
like let's say a good visual for this would be like Superman when he has the X-ray vision and he can see like the body holographically. He can see the inside or the outside through the clothes,
hmm
outside of the clothes. He can see the brain, the heart, like all that stuff. Or like another analogy would be like Neo in the Matrix. He can also do the same thing. And then he can also see it even deeper with like their lines of code now. Like so it's like that would be like the DNA, right? So like let's say if we could look at the body in that way, so what makes it run? What makes it work? What makes us alive?
Well, I think desire more than anything else. It was desires are gifts from God. I think that we came here not in keeping with the original intent for this earth plane, but souls
Mm,
came here. And so, enmeshed in this three-dimensional theater, there's lots of cogitations as to like how or why or the makeup of this three-dimensional game. But ultimately it's kind of moot, or at least it's, subconditional to the larger game that would be, more a consideration of, hyperdimensional play that we're always part of as souls.
mm,
And that might be, the higher science yet still to kind of gravitate to.
But
And then
desire is
from that,
interesting because like Napoleon Hill talks about desire as being the driving force for like all achievement. But then
yeah,
if you look at an emotional frequency chart,
it's nice to frame it.
desire, yeah, desire is like at the bottom with fear and anger. So how do we connect these things? Like how
I think
is
that's a different
desire a
desire.
positive thing where it's not like
Yeah,
such a, you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, but that I think is a different desire. That's more of like a lustful, lascivious desire, whereas the desire that would be speaking about now would be more like the desire for more enjoyment in life, which is all organisms prefer that.
mm,
If they didn't, they'd be all dead. you know.
mm.
So that sort of desire with maybe a capital disease, maybe just a gift from God, we can look at it as. And the other desire, again, we're limited by the speech patterns, of today. There might be a better, higher language we could go and use to explore these topics, more in depth and with more exactness. Sanskrit, I really like for that reason. Also, though, I've
Sanskrit.
been getting into ancient Egyptian cartouche and whatnot, and that's pretty fun.
Sanskrit in what way? Like, cause I know Sanskrit is like that's like the ancient like Indian text, like Indian.
Yeah, but pre that Indian, subcontinent though too. Yeah, but existing for a long time. Like, most people are like I think conditioned by some belief that the humanity hasn't been on the earth that long, but really we've been here millions of years. And
So
just to like get okay with that thought is I think to make allowances for a history that's so much more vast and so much more powerful
yeah, so you just
to
mentioned
include.
some ancient text. So that reminds me of Billy Carson and like the Emerald tablets and like all the like really
That's
ancient.
awesome. He's doing really great PR if you can say his name and Emerald tablets in the same sentence
Right, yeah,
with
yeah,
with
exactly.
his
So
name
he
being
tied his name because
That's
he actually went to I think in the University of what is that Boston MIT. He went
Mhm.
there and he read the actual like Emerald tablets through this translator
Mhm.
machine they have, and like he's doing great PR for sure. Like he was
Yeah,
on Joe
yeah,
Rogan recently and like all the podcasts. Like he did like the
yeah,
whole.
yeah. That's awesome. I remember him when he was just starting out, and thinking like, oh, this guy's kind of cute, kind of funny, and now he's really like exploded onto the scene. So yeah, happy for him, greatly. He's made the right moves. He's probably employing AI rightly too to help make it happen. Tie it back to that. So good job to
back
you
to
in doing
back to
that.
before where we said we have all the tools and resources. Like
Hmm.
we just have to focus on like a specific goal, man. And I think if
Totally.
we,
Having that desire, letting it freaking, burn, with
mm,
intensity, but
mm,
also not being possessed by thoughts. I think that's key. I think being possessed by thoughts is like the beginning of soul decay.
mm,
Really keeping in mind a spiritual ideal is paramount.
mm. Wow, that's a lot to that's ponder right there. A spiritual ideal is paramount, and not to be consumed by thoughts. And
Or
that's such
not to
a
be consumed
slippery
by like
slope.
yeah. Yeah, not to be consumed by an idea. And I think
Mm.
all too many times people get like consumed by this idea of things and kind of, we go towards that. And really they're lurching towards that because, in comparison, they'd be fucking super fluid, with their spiritual ideal.
Yeah, yeah. It reminds me of like a quote from the Bible. It's like I think Jesus said, like, do not like, if you're looking, I'm butcher it completely, but it's the essence of it is you're not gonna find happiness or the kingdom of heaven in academia, or within the wealthy, or even within the leadership of the church, like even within the groups of people, or within like any specific idea. you're not gonna find it there. Like true enlightenment doesn't. It's not there. It's not in the things that are worldly.
Right, right. Those are, systems and frames, that are maybe useful to a degree, but only to a degree.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. So
yeah.
then that brings me to nothingness.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Let's just like abide in the that abode for a bit. Seriously, how often do you meditate? Do you meditate pretty regularly?
Yeah, yeah, I've been doing it pretty regularly. I'd say
Have you read my book yet?
no, no. I didn't
Oh,
even
you
know
got
you
to
had
read
a
my book.
book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, of course. I have a couple.
What's the title of it? And I'm gonna write it here. So that
Okay, it's called Soul of Zion, Body of Olympus.
okay. Let me word. So what I do is like I write it down on a file here, new blank document. Put the heading really big. Let's say zoom in, view, zoom. Let's do like assume. There you go. And then make the
Yeah.
font real big.
Okay,
Uh,
that's
where's
awesome.
where's the font at? Uh, Fonts. There you go. Let's make it like 72. Okay. What is it again?
Soul of Zion, Body of Olympus.
Of Zion, body of Olympus. Okay. By
By, and that's my nom de plume, John Goodhelm.
John Goodman. John Goodman.
Goodhelm,
Oh,
like the
good.
helm ship. Yeah.
John Goodhelm. And then it's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon and Apple. Actually, I get more in profits from Apple than Amazon if you prefer reading on your Apple devices.
Okay. Soul of Zion, body of Olympus. John Goodhelm. Can you see this on your screen?
No, but that may just be due to how I have it set up.
Oh no no no! It's because I have it on the OBS, so it's gonna be in the video, but it's not gonna be in the Zoom.
Okay, good.
So okay, so get it, Soul of Zion, Body of Olympus by John Goodhelm, and then so what is the essence of the book? Is it what we were just talking about it, or does it hit
Uh,
like different?
Most primarily, yes. In it, if I were to like, sum it up very shortly, I kind of look at what that again we mentioned it at least, but what that noblesse oblige is, to perfect oneself in all those various dimensions, then kind of
Mm,
offering, what those categories of thought are, how to, kind of quicken them, but also still further, what this concept of the Son of God from Adam to Jesus is, and then how that in turn, expresses itself in the physiology, incorporating the idea that physiology is consciousness, just expressed physiologically. Then I also look at what these various malaise that people suffer or encounter here on this, this earth, or dealing with, and how to overcome those things very naturally. Offer very holistic insight into that subtle physiology, but offer very pragmatic steps in how to recover from whatever, the grips of whatever malaise, one might be in. So it's useful in so many ways, for sure.
Okay, so I'm looking at. I got it pulled up right here. You can't see it, but I got it pulled up right here on Amazon. So, Soul of
The full form.
Zion, Body of Olympus, Enlightened
Mhm.
Athletics, and it says, glorify God and honor self, His temple. From oneness we come, to oneness we go, ever creating by glorifying the Creator. Keeps God's name on your tongue. Remember what you're here for. The liberation of all is God's order.
Echad. Yes. Nice.
Did that give you some did that hearing your own words, are you like Quentin Tarantino? Like did that give you like that? It's like, oh, those are my words. My words being
Yeah.
recited like
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice. It's nice to hear it for sure.
so tell us about the book. So what was the inspiration from the book? Where did it come? Where are you trying to go with this?
Yeah. Well, I think the inspiration for the book was manifold. Really, I felt like so many different muses. So many different, planes came to, inspire some element of that book. So at various times there in the early beginning, I was flirting with this idea of just calling it Prince of Zion and really kind of exploring this concept of the Son of God, but doing it in a more of like call to action sort of format. Really kind of just like, bringing people to like, witness, what they should be doing through these kind of poetical frames that I'd offer. And, and still a little bit of that original, book is, an element in that piece now, the Soul of Zion, Body of Olympus. But I've just added so much to it since then, and really kind of show what this technology of consciousness vis-a-vis these seven transformers of the body are all about. And that's I think where the meat of the book is. But for those people specific, going through some, malaise, there's something on the back of the book, to help them with that and to help them overcome that. And there's so much that I list. There's like practically all the malaise that that people are going to commonly encounter are there listed. And there's an easy, pragmatic, holistic, therapy to just get out of that as quickly as one can. Very holistic and very, gentle and gradual.
Yeah,
So,
you look like you just saw something interesting there, like from that hill. Like you're looking down with your
oh yeah, the background.
with your pants made out of hemp, you know,
Totally. Got it.
and your sweater made out of hemp, you know, and then you're just like staring into like the cliff, you know.
Oh, you're actually speaking about the title, not my image now. Yeah, that was taken by a super famous photographer's son, who's also a really good photographer. But he was also a client of mine there in Kuwait. So
Mm.
the picture though is in Colorado, and it's at a place called Garden of the Gods. You might remember it from your Colorado
Yeah,
Springs. Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that place.
Yeah. Well, my family was founding members of the original. Gosh, so much
Get
of
the
Colorado
fuck
Springs,
out of
but also
here!
Colorado
Get the
City.
fuck
Yeah,
out of here!
yeah. And so that there was one of my gosh, I think it was my great grandpa that would do this with this his family, but his family included my family too. So it was funny though. He would go and stand from one of the Garden of the Gods and just like throw out money to all the family. He was president of the bank too. I don't know if he should have been doing that, but he would be doing it.
Oh my God, Garden of the Gods, man. I,
Yeah, wouldn't that be a cool move? Just standing on one of those Garden of the Gods and just like throwing out money to your family and just stand with them and be like, "This is fucking awesome."
oh my God, man. I have it pulled up here. Like, I have like pictures of the Garden of the Gods. Like, oh my God, man. And actually, like, you know what came up? Sunsets from in Garden of the Gods, man. Have you seen
Oh
these
my God.
pictures?
Yeah, yeah. I would spend my time actually. I'd climb the rocks without permit, and the people would be like, "Hey, you're not supposed to be up there." Like, "Hey, that's against the rules." And I just shout back in this booming voice from up in the heavens on this Garden of the God, and I'd be like, "Rules are meant for those people who need to be ruled." And then they just reflect on their life
Wait,
thereafter, and they'd be like,
you're not supposed to like climb?
and in certain areas, yeah, because it'd be all too easy for some, suicidal person to like go and climb and jump off or something. And
Oh,
then
got you.
cause a mess, and then it'd totally ruin everybody's show. And they're just super worried like that at parks like that.
Yeah, so yeah, I could definitely see myself doing that too. It's like, don't climb up there. I'll be like, thou shalt not be pedantic.
Yes. Don't be a pedantic tool.
No-
Quote God.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like my sensei used to say. He used to say, he josias. It's like, man, you're thinking too much. It's like, just be. And then he also said, like, don't. He's like, oh yeah, so, like in karate, he's like, first you learn the rules, and then you don't need them anymore. Then you can break them, but first you need to learn them, and then you can break them and work around them,
Right.
with what's the word? What's the word,
Mm.
man? It's like
Is it a French
discernment.
word? Oh,
With
discernment. Oh,
discernment,
okay.
because now you have you know what the laws are and you know what the rules are. But now, if you have if you have the virtue of discernment, then you can differentiate between like, okay, so now, uh, is this a situation to where this law pertains, or like, oh, like you just mentioned before, like, there are higher laws.
Right, exactly. Which I was almost by necessarily on, as I was at a more elevated position. I could
Mm.
argue I could see, from a more elevated, basis. But yeah, I think that I subscribe myself to nobody's laws, and I ask no one to subscribe themselves to mine. And it's only that simple because I just am a lover of,
Mm.
and I think perfect liberty is the law.
Which brings me to empathy.
Hmm.
Empathy, I was thinking about this yesterday. Empathy is showing somebody that you understand them, you understand their world, to where like, let's say if you can, and I was talking with AI yesterday about this, and it's like, so thinking about like the analogy of hide and seek when it comes to somebody's emotional state, and the different drifting of different states in people, where they can go from one state to another according to cause and effect, back to cause and effect. They can have emotional states and things so where like they're hiding from you emotionally in the beginning, and there are people who are more open and people who are more closed, or certain people who have like, they seem open but they're really not. It's just a facade. And then I equated those things to, like, let's say when you have like the dog that licks you in the face that just wants love, or the cat that's like apathetic, or like the guard dog to where it's like, ah. And then like learning how to be aware of those states in people where they are, and not having to impose your will upon them, but just accepting them as they are, but really like looking and letting them know and showing them that you understand to where they are, and you still care about them regardless, kind of thing. I don't know. It's a really
Hmm.
like, you get what I'm saying?
No, totally. I think there's a lot of ways to do it beautifully. It's just a
Mm,
matter of like, what's our highest rendering and conception of divinity, and how closely have we attuned to that, and what are our measures for like, bringing ourselves to those more rarefied places when operating or when, interacting with people, if it's even useful to go and do so. So, I don't want to be
mm,
so high vibe that I seem aloof to the world's problems,
mm,
but I also want to meet people where they're at, and when on that ascending stroke, looking up with them, take them up as high as possible. So I think to have
mm,
a range of operations may be necessary for sure, and to see people where they're at and have that empathy is kind of necessary for that range to be cultivated.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
And I got that vibe from you. I got that vibe from you when I met you. It's like, you notice people, you kind of were aware of. Remember the last day of the campaign, where like that one kid, he was being really annoying and really like rude.
Yeah.
And then I saw you because I'm like, you're like a
So funny.
trained, like, you're like a trained martial artist, and this kid, he's big, he's like big and strong, but it's like I'm thinking there are levels to this. So I'm thinking like you could have taken him down at any moment if he got out of hand, but he was like swinging a steel bat around, like very close to us, and I was like, I wonder what's gonna happen here. I'm curious. What's gonna
Yeah.
happen here? How did you experience that moment? Because like we were like, I was noticing him, and I was also aware of where he was at, like, but I wasn't sure. Like I knew his state was very heightened in a very, and then later he told me that he had like 3 energy drinks. So I
Oh, well, that
understand.
might excuse him somewhat for sure, because I've been in
Yeah,
that place
so
for
he was
a
like,
minute
and
myself.
then he apologized. He's like, I'm sorry, man. Like afterwards, I'm like, yo, you're being kind of like, you know, like imposing. And I forget the words that I used, but they were very carefully crafted. But like basically, I was like, man, you're being a dick right now. It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
how
I
did you
think
experience that
I,
moment?
I,
Like,
I was laughing at it and kind of shaking my head because I had him riding in the car all day before then, and I thought that he would be in a play. I'd hope for his sake that he'd be in a place that was better than that. So there was kind of that as a consideration, but also too I didn't think too much of it. I was just
Dang.
trying to reflect, some insight that was timed right, that was also in keeping with us having a conversation at that time.
Yeah,
But
I
he
was
was
like,
saying some funny things.
yeah, I was like, like my mind was ready for like any outcome that would happen, but I
Hmm.
also had in my mind, I had like a duality. I'm like, all right, so it seems very alarming here because this guy seems to be out of control, but at the same time, I'm like, it's probably okay. So I had those two thoughts in my head the whole time. I'm like, okay, if anything happens, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure Donald's aware of what's going on, and like, I'm pretty sure like we're like, we're probably like, if something happens, we're probably gonna have to put this guy down, but like, I'm not like, it's probably okay though. Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, I had
No,
those two thoughts in my head.
I usually don't even go there to those thoughts because thoughts are things, and they
Mm.
can and they can be miracles if we're to make them. So like, let's just make that moment into a miracle and handle it, with a nice ameliorating, just a mollifying way, let's call it,
Mm.
where whatever anger he's experiencing that's venting out in some silly ass way, displaced as it is from, whatever it should be considering, at least we can go and, as good brothers to this character, share with him some, good peaceful vibes and just kind of like see a situation, just not escalating so much as just, see it come to, just kind of come to its completion.
Neutralize it instead of escalating, neutralizing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I think that would be my approach, in a martial way, too, if it were to, be involved, using, hands and fists and that whole, kind of low vibe shit. If it were that, it would have been, more of a, an Aikido style, I guess. But not even relating it to one particular style,
I
really.
like that, man. That's actually that's true wisdom right there. Where like, because you're not only aware of the situation, but like you're aware of how to handle it, and and like knowing the best outcome, and then knowing how to get to that best outcome instead of like, okay, I might have to get negative on this. It's like, no, like I can neutralize this problem. Like it's not even an issue. Like
Yeah,
it's
knowing it is a non-issue is, I think, the first step. For
mm,
sure. And not just for confidence in the act of like neutralizing, but also, and even thinking to neutralize it itself. So it carries a pragmatic and sort of conceptual charge to it.
wow. Hmm. That's
If that makes sense.
that's good, man.
Yeah.
That's good. And like I said, this is just advice. Now do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. Handle your shit however you think to.
Man, that's beautiful. Hey man, I think we got enough here, man, today, and I think we got to a good point. And I think this will set the stage for a future podcast that we can do. So let's summarize a little bit. So we got the like we started out with the beginning, which was we
And
were talking about
light, the light of awareness came to
the light of
the world
awareness.
in the beginning. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but I think what did we start talking about? We were talking about, so when I had you on the phone, we were talking about the hiking. We were talking about the hiking, and then
Oh, hiking, the trail running. Yeah, all that good stuff.
the trail
Yeah.
running, and then we talked about like the okay cause and effect,
Three
the
dimensions
three
matter.
dimensions.
Yeah. How to relate, spiritual concepts to a very young mind.
Yes, how to
You
relate
know, I
spiritual
think that's
concepts.
that's that's key, really. Fundamental is that.
Yeah, and then the thing about this is where you came from there. Like you were once there and now you're here. The holographic,
Yeah.
holography.
Holography in general as an analog to spiritual studies. Definitely.
Wow, man, we can definitely like hit some good podcasts with this, man. Like just we could just hit on one of these topics, or we could hit them all like in the next one or whatever.
Yeah, we could have a series of several of them.
Yeah, we talked about your
Yeah.
book. We talked about your
Yeah.
book. I put it up on the screen. And I'm sure people are gonna enjoy that. If they want to get to know you and stuff. Okay, give us your socials. Like, what are your socials? I'm gonna write them down here.
Yeah, so I guess you could find me on my social. It'll be Enlightened Athletics. It'll be Good Helm. It'll be Lux.guru. Actually, the URL that makes it most easy to find everything is a repository of it all is lux.guru. The URL is just that, lux.guru. And
Okay.
that's like the brand for, the ministry and for
Do
Enlightened
you have
Athletics
do you have like a
performance.
website I can go to it where you have it
Yeah,
has
yeah,
all of
that's
it?
what it is. The URL is for that is lux.guru.
Ooh,
And,
that's a good.
and then click on the I and you'll see the menu drop down. That's the hamburger
Okay,
menu.
lux dot
G
guru.
R U.
That's a good okay. So if you want information on Donald's ministry or concepts, you can go to lux.guru guru. Um he's
Yeah.
the opposite of Tony Robbins. He's telling you that he's your guru. He's
I'm telling you that like, hey, light is your guru. That's it. Light is the teacher. Fucking be a son of light. That's the dignity of your first spiritual estate. Get in line with that because that's the definition that's going to take you to everywhere
planetary.
you want in the universe.
Ah, this is cool. And then this actually ties into my uh my 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 brainstorming session with AI yesterday about empathy. Where like in the podcast that I did up until now, I was mainly focused on having a conversation and warming up to like a certain point. But now like when you were talking like and I went to your website and put it I gave people a glimpse into who you are by pulling up your website and looking at your book and title and the picture and stuff like that. People can get a really good picture, like I guess initially, of who you are and just by looking at your stuff while talking about it.
Hmm.
And I think that in essence is empathy. So I was capturing even if at a superficial level here in the beginning, because we just began to know each other, and then people who are just like seeing you for the first time, they've also just begun to explore or like begun to look at you and seeing if they're interested in you, and then
Yeah,
but
yeah.
now
You're offering the transference of empathy and meeting me. I like it. Yeah, I think you really hold that context well too. So I implore you to just go and empathetically podcast away.
yeah man it's just the fact it's like if you look at uh man there's so much here man but I'll end with this it's like like Sherlock Holmes how he had his mind castle.
I don't know of that, but you piqued my interest now. Should I'll watch Sherlock Holmes? Is this the new one, or is this the original book?
The original like just the whole
Okay,
thing
okay,
about Sherlock Holmes, he's got this thing, it's like the mind castle, and it's like if
okay.
you think about like Doctor Strange when he looked at all the possibilities, the probabilities of defeating Thanos, like,
Yeah.
and he sat down and he's like that. Sherlock Holmes used to do a similar thing where he used to like go into if you needed to figure something out, he would go into his mind castle, and there like he had different rooms and stuff, and in different rooms he had different pieces of information, and he would just meditate and explore like all these rooms in his mind,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
therefore like if you were able to explore Sherlock Holmes's mind, you would be able to go into those rooms as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
is
Well,
the concept I think
that,
of empathy here, where we're able to see like I guess right now at first glance we're able to see the outside of your house or your castle, and then eventually if people really get to know you deeply, they'll get to go inside and look at your rooms.
totally, totally. Yeah, I think that. Gosh, well, you remind me of this beautiful book, though, and then these memory tools that were provided therein. It's called Moonwalking with Einstein,
I heard
and
about it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was really fascinating. Admittedly, I read like whatever the not the Spark Notes, but it was the shortened, abbreviated, I think summary of the book. Audio is given as this is some beautiful app that used to go and do things like that. They're probably still around,
Yeah, I've heard
but
about it. It's a memory book, and I think
yeah,
so. Like to wrap up, like the duality of like keeping a clear mind and like a clear, accurate pictures of like enlightened, like being like aware and like having an accurate picture of stuff, and at the same time being able to let all that go and not letting those ideas like control you, just being flexible in life. Oh man, it's a delicate balance.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose it is. I suppose it's like a personality too that, comes about at the various degrees of, balance, with that. And I think that it's nice to have a personality and wonderful to have it. I don't think that we should ever, think to totally get rid of our ego or anything like that. That's just silly. So long as we're in bodies, that's maybe a necessity, or at least it's not in any hindrance, so long as it's properly aligned with the will of God. That is, if we supplicate our will for the fathers, then we have, in our in our mansion house, all that we could ask for.
Hmm.
But I think that the goal here is to socialize and sublimate the ego, socialize and sublimate the self. That's, I think, how that balance is, increasingly found.
Sublimate the ego. Give me that in like baby
Yeah.
words.
Okay. So like, I'd always, kind of, find what your highest conception of self is. And then, in the course of interaction with others, with thoughts, with things, with people, with flowers, with moons, whatever, the action, the spiritual action and, reflection is considering, work that into, refine that into, make it a sort of a craft, if you will, of, your persona building. And then, always, endeavor to, sublimate that still further. So it's just an act of, socializing, that really kind of like finding out the new breakthroughs that, God has given you, and then, bring that to the people around you, and, weighted on how they respond or how it's useful, then, kind of adapt and, and overcome, whatever those, challenges are. And then,
Mm.
always, get better by getting more downloads and, meditating, really, I think that meditating, praying, and chanting are so very useful. And if people are
Mm.
only to employ those things, they're going to go and grow so much that that they won't be able to prevent themselves from not growing.
Wow, wow, wow. I have a good friend of mine from Sweden, and he's a really like strong meditator.
Hmm.
And I've done two podcasts with him so far, and I think I would love to do a podcast with him and you, and then see how you guys explore the concepts. Because I'm an amateur meditator. I just recently started, like doing it regularly in the morning. Go to the beach, do about a minute to 5 minutes. But he does like
Nice.
hours. Like he's like he does like hours of meditation at a time, and you probably have too. So I'd be curious to see that. Will and Donald.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be cool for sure.
Yeah. So okay, man, this was great. Thank you
It
for
was
coming on.
very great. Yeah, thanks. I love to see her smile. You just look so happy.
Ah,
It's
thanks, man.
effervescent.
Well,
Yeah,
like I love to be stimulated by intelligent minds and like and words and people who really have like a great philosophy and I guess enlightened high vibrational individuals, you know? And that really
yeah. Those
stimulates me.
people are cool. Yeah,
People are
agreed.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. That might self-congratulatory, but no, like I just wanted to hold this context to meet other people that like to do the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just it's like curious, like because I think at the end for me, what drives me is the curiosity and fascination. Like,
Hmm.
so Joe Rogan has this quote, and he says, "Man, like all this goal setting bullshit. Like, he's like, I don't go about my life that way." He says, "I do things that are interesting and engaging."
Hmm. Yeah, that's
And
fun.
I think, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, yeah. So I'll get this edited and stuff, and I'll send it out to you when it's done. And
All right. Well, thanks.
Despierta, la alarma solo odio la mañana, pero con sonrisa falsa todo en calma. Dinero llama, costumbre me amarra, sufro pero fijo el deseo.